I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start, but as we saw, he came to my ears and whispered, "Please be easy on me." He thought I'm Mike Tyson and I will follow his script 40 seconds after I broke the clown's jaw. We are boxers, not content creators. I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start, but as we saw...
The day after I woke up and told my wife, "Why did I do that?" I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on. I remember one thing, I had a very hard moment in that part of my life, but I assure you in that age, I could have put that clown in the first round, but I sold my soul. And
It's like this is the clearest fixed fight you're ever gonna see. Look at this guy holding his hands up and watch. Look at that. He literally shows him his chin and he goes down. It's so fake. Look at, he's got nothing. It's like a guy who just learned boxing.
Who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. And then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division.
I didn't want to put him down early. You all know I was handcuffed. I don't want to say anything that I will be regretting in the future. But all I can say now is the first 20 seconds was enough for me to end Jake Paul.
People frequently argue that this won't destroy influencer boxing, and they're likely right. However, poison also takes time to kill. It gets weaker over time, and this particular moment poisoned the well. You won't notice it until commissions start asking more difficult questions and fewer fighters say yes. I'm still troubled by the Mike Tyson angle. Memory gaps are not fleeting remarks, they are flares. Furthermore, flares do not ignite on their own. And it was never resolved, whether it was psychological, physical, or something messier. It was simply overshadowed by memes and anticipation. Joshua's punch has now unearthed the grave once more. Additionally, as graves reopen, people begin to wonder who initially placed the body there. And believe me when I say that someone is currently worrying about it.
Resolved. It just got buried under hype and memes, and now Joshua's punch dug that grave back up. And once graves reopen, people start asking who put the body there in the first place. And trust me, somebody is sweating about that right now.
That guy did great for...
This is something more that individuals are lacking. Because pros don't notice drama, this affected fighters behind the scenes far more than fans understand. They observe cautionary indicators, such as the rulebook altering in the middle of a sentence. And that's worrisome because it implies that the distinction between sport and spectacle will blur. And as soon as that line breaks, commissions become anxious, insurers become agitated, and easy money starts posing challenging queries. And it never ends peacefully.
Right after the day after I woke up and told my wife, "Why did I do that?" I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think of Jake's power, man, when you were in there?
I don't remember it, but my body was really sore. Yeah, my body, my chest, my stomach and stuff was really sore.
Watch how calm everyone looks on the surface and how frantic it feels underneath. That's reputation management. And the longer it takes for clear answers to show up, the worse it smells. Because clarity should be easy if everything was clean. But nothing about this feels clean. It feels filtered, negotiated.
Observe how composed everyone appears on the outside, and how chaotic everything is on the inside. That is managing one's reputation. Additionally, it stinks worse the longer it takes for clear solutions to appear, because if everything was clean, clarity should be simple. However, this doesn't feel clean at all. It feels softened, bargained, and filtered. Additionally, stories that soften so quickly are typically the result of something sharper lurking just out of view.
Coming back to Joshua, not as a villain or hero, but as an accelerant, because he didn't create the mess. He exposed it faster than planned, and exposure is dangerous because it removes control, and control was the real currency here. Control over opponents, control over narratives,
When Joe Rogan talked about this incident, he brought up what Joshua's performance had made evident. Because Joshua didn't start the catastrophe, I keep thinking of him as an accelerant rather than a villain or hero. He revealed it more quickly than anticipated. Furthermore, exposure is risky, since it takes away control. In this case, control was the actual currency. Control over rivals, control over stories, control over results. And that was taken away by one punch. Furthermore, control is not relinquished without resistance. either literally or figuratively.
Because context matters, and this context was soaked in marketing language, promising legitimacy without earning it. And when marketing outruns reality, someone pays the difference. And this time the bill came due in bone and metal, and now it's being passed around, hoping someone else picks it up. And that passing is getting frantic.
In pain?
Some will advise, calm down, it's simply boxing. Injuries do occur, go ahead. However, context is important, so that is lazy. Additionally, this setting was replete with marketing jargon that promised legitimacy without ever earning it. Additionally, someone has to pay the price when marketing surpasses reality. This time, the bill was due in metal and bone. It is currently being passed about in the hopes that someone else may find it, and the passage is becoming chaotic.
The scapegoat, but chance doesn't schedule fights. People do, and people make decisions, and decisions have consequences, even when nobody wants to own them, and this consequence is still unfolding.
I'm just hoping after this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong?
Jake Paul is not bad, in my opinion. He seems like a product to me. Additionally, goods are pushed till they shatter. Additionally, the manufacturer places the blame on the consumer when they break. The environment is blamed by the user. Chance is blamed by the surroundings. Chance is then used as a scapegoat. However, chance doesn't plan battles. Individuals do. People also make choices. Decisions also have repercussions, even if no one desires to possess them. And this outcome is still developing.
Everything. People keep throwing around the word bravery like it's a shield, but bravery without wisdom is just negligence. And negligence is what lawyers and insurers start circling like sharks because somebody signed off on this knowing the gap.
In the end, Anthony Joshua uses a single blow to blow up Jake Paul's whole business plan and compel promoters and commissions, sending influencers into a panic. And no, this is not genuine. This spiral is darker than anyone wants to acknowledge, so stick with me. Furthermore, I can assure you that someone is already lying about what they knew and when. And since this wasn't about gone wrong, that will be more significant than the knockout itself. Everyone was simultaneously affected by this live television system breakdown. I keep playing back the scene, and each time it gets worse since Joshua wasn't simply harming a man. This was a well-constructed fiction colliding head-on with reality. And even before the blow was delivered, it was evident in Jake Paul's body language. That little moment when you realize, oh, this guy isn't playing along. There is no camera angle, influencer pivot, or edit that can save you once that realization sets in. And if you are interested in combat sports, you should be alarmed by the sudden silence in the room. This is the part that no one wants to say out loud. Climbing boxing is not what Jake Paul did. Like a company testing beta software, he handpicked, selected, cleaned, and managed the risk factors. And it is effective until someone like Anthony Joshua enters the room and shows no interest in the story. Joshua didn't violate any regulations. Therefore, there is no desire to preserve the brand or act as though this is content. He went after the eldest person. Until the man stops moving, hit him. You can learn everything from the panic you had afterwards. The term bravery is frequently used as if it were a shield. However, bravery without wisdom is simply carelessness. And because someone signed off on this knowing the gap, the danger, and how ugly this could go, attorneys and insurers began circling like sharks. Because toughness is safer than accountability, observe how quickly the discussion moves from judgment to toughness. And believe me when I say that someone wearing a suit is already practicing a sentence they hope will never come out. Additionally, don't let the blood in the replays divert your attention because the actual harm was structural and psychological. Because once the illusion is broken, it cannot be undone. And now that the ceiling is real, every influencer boxer awakens to a colder planet. It's made of concrete. Joshua also crashed someone into it. This is where it becomes scary. Promoters were aware that this was feasible. They simply didn't anticipate it looking that final, spotless, and harsh. And that discrepancy is where secrets begin to surface. No, take a moment to consider this. Why did the tone shift so quickly? The joke ended, but why? Instead of promoting a show, why did Joe Rogan suddenly seem like a man recalling previous funerals? Because unlike fans, fighters do not watch bouts. They keep an eye on intent, timing, and distance. They witnessed a man realizing in the middle of a battle that the safety net was fictitious. Furthermore, jobs and lives are destroyed by fictitious safety nets. And that was a powerful realization. The predictability of the aftermath is what truly bothers me. The repercussions, not the knockout. Because there are many instances in boxing history where entertainment went too far and everyone appeared to be horrified. It also follows the same curve every time. Laughter, inquisitiveness, worry, and regret. We're currently moving quickly in the direction of regret. And when people start changing their histories and acting as though they were uncomfortable all along, it's called remorse. Yes, exactly. I don't believe the innocent conduct at all. These aren't inexperienced people getting into trouble. This risk was deliberate because these experts are knowledgeable about force, damage, and risk curves. Additionally, deliberate gambling indicates that a loss was anticipated. This is the question that no one wants to respond to. Who was it meant to be? Because it was obviously not intended to look this way. Not this awful, not this definitive. And there is a noticeable discrepancy between the clan and the result. I keep hearing that influencer boxing won't be destroyed by this, and I think they're probably right. However, poison also takes time to kill. You won't notice it until fewer warriors accept it, or if commissions pose more challenging questions. It diminishes over time and poisons the well. And because Anthony Joshua did more than simply knock Jake Paul out, his name keeps coming back to me the more I sit with it. He agreed to play pretend and knocked the mask off a whole lane of boxing that survived on humans. Joshua never concurred either. Not for a moment. Not mentally, not verbally. He handled Jake as he truly was at that precise time, which is why this felt so brutal beyond the punch. There was a man in front of him. Not a tale, not a YouTube empire, not a brand. And everything broke because of that unwillingness. Fans of Jake Paul are often complaining about unfair matchups and experience gaps. But pay close attention. Jake made this decision. Like a trophy, he pursued legitimacy. And legitimacy retaliates. Furthermore, you have no right to be upset when a real heavyweight responds to your request to be treated like a professional fighter. Joshua responded with the most candid words available in the sport. Everyone was astonished at this point, as if they hadn't noticed the route leading right here. And since promoters don't stumble and end up in these circumstances, let's take a moment to discuss Eddie Hearn. They compute them. Hearn is also fully aware of the force and danger that Anthony Joshua stands for. I giggle when people appear shocked that this went nuclear, since nobody in that room had any idea. They only thought that the delusion would last a bit longer, perhaps one more occasion, one more salary, and that belief simply vanished upon impact. The fact that Jake Paul lost is what frightens people. Fighters are always losing. It's how diminutive he appeared as soon as the pressure ceased working. Because there was no pacing agreement, no choreography, and no implicit understanding, just intentional violence when Joshua intervened. Influencer boxing has deliberately steered clear of intent. And as soon as intent enters the scene, I can't stop thinking about the commissions watching this happen, because they detest embarrassment. They were humiliated by this. They approved something that now appears risky in retrospect, which makes them liable rather than funny. And lawsuits exist in retrospect. Additionally, don't be surprised if names you haven't heard yet start to appear in reports, since Blame and Joe Rogan's response keep coming back to me. Because that wasn't a performance issue. That was acknowledgement. Years later, that man witnessed far too many warriors slur sentences, recognizing that we may be preparing for the next cautionary tale. Additionally, you should pay attention when Rogan switches from exaggeration to caution, since he isn't defending Jake Paul. He is preventing the sport from going through its darkest period again. This is where the paranoia starts to surface. Why did certain voices stop talking so quickly? Why did some previously outspoken individuals suddenly switch to generalizations and ambiguous praise? Because it's not calm to be silent after chaos. Coordination is the key. Additionally, coordination typically entails everyone synchronizing their narratives before someone else reveals the incorrect information too soon. Whether Anthony Joshua intended this position or not, that delay just constituted the boundary between the before and after. Because every influencer battle is now equated with that punch. Every promoter is questioned about why this matchup is safe when the previous one wasn't. And since ambiguity is how you sell, that analogy is toxic for a company that relies on it. Joshua is often portrayed as the villain, as if he ought to have cooperated or pulled punches. And I think it's crazy because when fighters begin to believe that there is mercy in competitive violence, that's precisely how they get harmed. Joshua owed Jake Paul nothing but the truth. And it hurts to be honest in boxing. Fans are now furious with reality for behaving authentically. Additionally, boxers talk and remember who took the initiative and who didn't, so don't undervalue the impact this has on locker rooms. They also recall who handled this like a joke and who handled it like a brawl. And respect changes gradually at first, then suddenly. Additionally, Jake Paul's aura suffered a blow that no social media video could undo, since terror isn't. Additionally, I can't get rid of the idea that Tyson's name lingering over everything makes everything heavier, because it quickly loses its humor when legends with memory gaps start making jokes about selling souls and blank days. And whether he intended to or not, Joshua rekindled that unease. Additionally, promoters who seek clean, marketable narratives devoid of moral dilemmas find that pain to be radioactive. Over the coming weeks, see how the language evolves. How awful history may be. How a daring experiment turns into a teaching moment. Institutions retreat from the edge in this way without acknowledging that they were too close to it. Furthermore, those changes are not coincidental. They are practiced. Additionally, Jake Paul has already been drawn. Returning is unavoidable. Because in the absence of honesty, distrust builds and gradually and silently consumes credibility until eventually no one is left. Yes. I'm keeping a close eye on this because these kinds of situations don't go away, they spread. Additionally, each update, statement, and abrupt silence feels like a new piece moving on a board that the majority of fans are still unable to see. Additionally, I have a feeling that the next move won't be subtle because individuals quickly regain control when they lose it.